So, good morning. It's so happy to be with you again this morning. Our first Sunday of spring. And I know it doesn't really mean probably as much down there where you don't have such severe changes in the climate, but the rest of us in the States, especially the farther north we go, it's a big deal. So I've been having great joy seeing the snow melt because I'm not sure if all of you know, but I relocated to Canada during last year. And so it's a whole different world for me right now. And which that kind of goes right along with where we are and what we're talking about. You know, as we gather today in sacred awareness of truth, and a truth that touches every one of our lives, we recognize that life is always changing. And that change is something, no matter how we love stability, change comes. No matter how carefully we plan, which, I've always heard, you make plans, God laughs. But no matter how carefully we plan, change is probably going to be different than we expected. And no matter how faithful we are, change still comes. Relationships change. Our health changes. I've recognized in the last few years, last couple of years actually, that I'm aging. What's that about? And I've decided it is not for the faint-hearted, because all of a sudden the body doesn't like what anything else wants to be going on. But that's okay. That's part of our change. That's part of our natural evolution in this physical form. Our careers evolve, ministries grow, or they find times of stagnation. There's always something changing. Dreams transform. And sometimes, maybe on rare occasion, change arrives very gently. And then other times, it arrives unannounced and like a sudden storm. It will just kind of blow in and just kind of, sometimes it knocks us on our keisters. It hits us so hard. But, we learn how to grow through it. And this month, I'm actually focusing on, embracing change. And like she said, and evolving in divine order. And I have an affirmation that I'm using this month, and I would love it. I'm going to do a screen share here. And I'd love it if you either speak it verbally or say it quietly to yourself. And so here we go. I embrace change as a natural part of my spiritual evolution. I trust in divine order and step forward with faith, knowing each change leads me to greater growth and understanding. Well, now let that truth just settle into your heart just a little bit. In unity, we understand something very essential. We understand that spirit is alive, that the universe is creative, that, the divine essence is forever expressing as us, through us. We also understand that God isn't static. It's not just that God is movement and growth and unfolding life. Take a look at nature. And, when we look at nature on a global level, the seasons, they don't cling from one to the other. We didn't have winter hanging on this weekend and saying, no, I'm not going away. You can't start putting buds on the trees. And no, I'm not going to let the grass turn green. And then spring doesn't resist becoming summer. Autumn doesn't cling to green leaves or the really warm days and nights. And then winter doesn't apologize for resting. Everything in creation honors change. And yet as humans, we often struggle with it. We say, well, I liked it better before, or we've always done it this way, or, I'm not ready for this. I wish things could go back to the way they were. But what happens is Spirit whispers to us. There's more. There's more waiting for you. And every change is an invitation to become more. Hear that again. Every change is an invitation to become more more of who you are. Not less, but more. More wisdom, more compassion, more strength, more awareness, more love. It's our invitation to continue to fully express the truth of who we are, which we are God expressing. So let's be honest. Most of us don't resist change because we're stubborn. We resist it because we're afraid. We're afraid of losing security. We're afraid of making a mistake. We're afraid of being judged. And I think probably in our world today, that's one of the big ones. We're afraid of failing, of being alone, of starting over. Fear says, what if I can't handle this? And faith says, God, I can handle anything. Unity teaches that our thoughts shape our experiences. And when we think, I'm not ready, I'm not capable, I'm too old, I'm too late, I don't have a good enough education, we come up with all of these spiritual roadblocks. I've challenged individuals many times through my time in ministry, and actually even in corporate America before I became a minister, to take the word can't or not enough, those words, out of your vocabulary. And instead shift to things like, I'm guided, I'm learning, I am supported, and I am growing. And I'm sure you've heard many times that anything you put behind I am, you're magnifying and claiming as your divine essence. So remember that. The next time the words I'm tired or I am sick and tired come out of your mouth, look what you're claiming for yourself. And so we want to make sure that anything after that I am phrase is positive, affirming, uplifting, and empowering. And when we do that, we open doors. We provide, when resistance comes into play, it creates suffering. Acceptance creates flow. And so we resist and create that pain. Many years ago, I worked in the medical equipment field. And I sold a lot of rehab equipment. I actually at one point owned a rehab equipment company. And so the different things that you might see used in a hospital or a physical therapy clinic, rehab facilities, are those stimulators. It could be TENS units, it could be muscle stimulators. They call them different things, but it's where they'll put electrodes on. And they turn up the machine and you start getting that zzz, that buzz, that tingle, that little, pins and needles. And that discomfort, when that happens, that discomfort is called impedance. And the impedance is the difference in where you are and where the electrical current is. And so you're not meshed up with that. It is the resistance of your skin to what is incoming. Much like so many times when we have resistance to what is incoming from our guidance. And when we do that, it creates discomfort, dis-ease, suffering. So when we can align ourselves in that flow, in that vibration, that energy field of truth, of source, of God, by whatever name you call, we are in that place of acceptance. And flow continues and becomes just unabounding. So it doesn't mean, though, pretending that everything is great, but it means trusting that source is still good, even when things feel uncertain. One of the most powerful unity principles is this: there is divine order at work in all things, not random, not chaotic, not accidental, but ordered and guided. It's purposeful. Divine order doesn't mean that everything happens the way we expect. It means that everything unfolds in the way that serves our highest good. Sometimes things are removed that no longer serve us. Sometimes we're redirected. Sometimes our lives are rearranged so that blessings can reach us. I was talking to someone this week, and they were sharing that they really want to find someone in their life. And we talked about the ways that we go about preparing ourselves for that individual. And as we were talking, I said, but you realize right now, that person that you are holding in your heart is going through their own preparation. They are getting ready, just as you are getting ready for this time together. And she looked at me and she goes, you're going to make me cry. And I said, no, tears of joy, I hope. But this is just us understanding. That so often what looks like a setback is a setup. And what feels like an ending is often a doorway. Loss turns into liberation. And when we trust divine order, we stop asking, why is this happening to me? And we begin asking, what is this teaching me? How is this growing me? And where is Spirit leading me? Every major change carries a spiritual gift. Think back over your life. Some of your hardest seasons probably produced your greatest growth. Your deepest empathy, your strongest faith, your clearest boundaries, your truest self. You're not the same person right this minute that you were 10 years ago. I'd venture to say you're not the same person that you were last week. And thank God for that. You've evolved. And you're still evolving. Unity teaches us that we are co-creators with God. We are not victims of change, but we are participants in transformation. Each transition is shaping our soul. Each step is revealing your strength. And each challenge is awakening your faith. And so, let me remind us once again of the affirmation we started with. I embrace change as a natural part of my spiritual evolution. I trust in divine order when each step forward with faith, knowing that each change leads me to a greater growth and understanding. And to live this affirmation, it means when life shifts, I breathe and trust. When fear arises, I choose faith. When uncertainty appears, I listen for guidance. And when doubt whispers, I speak truth to my being. We have two choices, really. We can live in fear or in love. That's it. And many, many years ago, I chose to live in love. My mother was very fear-based. She was always afraid of this or of that. It was, and it was a much gentler time when I was a child. It's been a few years ago. But she was a very fear-based person. And I watched that through the years kind of paralyze her and keep her from doing some of the things that she would have probably enjoyed had she been brave enough to do so. And I made a decision at a very young age as I watched that I was not going to let fear be my captain. That I was going to find the way, find the venue, the avenue, the teachings, the truth that supported me in living in that place of love and living the truth of who I am. And I am not a victim of fear. So, when doubt whispers, I speak the truth. I speak the truth. This has no power over me. And, it might mean saying sometimes, God, I don't know the whole path, but I will take the next step. And that next step is enough to continue to propel us forward. Change is not here to break you. It is here to bless you. It is shaping you into a clearer channel of love. You're not behind, you're not lost, you're not forgotten. You are unfolding in divine order. And Spirit is walking with you every step of the way. You're never alone. You're always supported. And if you look around you and think about all those places in your life where you are loved. And if nothing else, you know that in the essence of who we all are as Unity Truth students, you are loved in this community, and you are loved by the universe. It's so nice, and so many times if I find myself at a place of anxiety, I shut my eyes, and I allowed myself to feel wrapped in the arms of comfort, of love, and of joy. And that helps for me to feel stable and truthful as who I am, as a divine expression of all that is, of the universe, of God, of Spirit, of Source, by whatever name. We are one. We are one in that essence. We are one in that heredity. And so I bless you. And I want to take us into a time of meditation. And so if you will, prepare yourself for this time. And if you will, take a slow, deep breath in and release. Again, breathe in peace and exhale tension. One more time. Inhale lightly. Exhale any of the worries that you may have brought with you this morning. Allow your body to soften, your shoulders to relax, your jaw to release, and your mind to become still. And now, if you would, bring your awareness to your heart space. Oh, imagine a warm, gentle light glowing right there from your heart. This is God's presence within you. Steady, loving, guiding. And with each breath, this light in your heart space, it grows brighter. As you continue to breathe, you're breathing in light, and you're breathing out trust. And as you continue that process, resting in the truth that you know, I invite you to bring your mind to a change in your life. A transition, a question, maybe a new beginning or an ending. As we do this, don't judge it, please. Simply notice it and hold it gently in prayer. And silently say, I am safe in God. I am guided by Spirit. I trust divine order. I am safe in God. I am guided by Spirit. And I truly trust divine order and unfolding. Imagine this situation of change surrounded by light. Oh, God's wisdom flows through it. God's love fills it. God's peace blesses it. Feel any fear dissolving. Feel clarity rising. Feel the courage awakening within you. And now, if you would, affirm silently to yourself, I embrace change as a part of my spiritual growth. I embrace change as a part of my spiritual growth. I trust the path before me. I walk in faith. I am supported. I am becoming. And now rest in this truth, in the silence. And now, imagine yourself walking forward on a beautiful path. Light surrounds you. Love walks beside you. Wisdom guides you. Each step feels strong. Each step feels sure. You are not alone. You are divinely led. Take one more deep breath. And when you're ready, gently return your awareness to the room. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. And open your eyes. For you are blessed. And so it is. Amen. And may you go forward this week, trusting divine order, embracing change, walking in faith, and knowing you are endlessly supported by Spirit. And so it is. Be blessed.